Let's dive right into one of the biggest questions we can ask ourselves. It's a question that honestly shapes everything: our laws, our relationships, even our own conscience.
And the question is this: can morality exist without religion? I mean, really think about it. Can a person, or an entire society for that matter, be genuinely good without God, without some kind of secret text or organized faith? And the answer, maybe surprisingly, is of course it can. Now, before you click away, let's unpack how we get to that answer, because I promise you, the journey is way more interesting than just the destination.
To even start, we've got to get on the same page. We have to figure out what we're actually talking about when we say the word morality. And it turns out, the word itself gives us a fantastic clue.
You see, the root of morality traces back to the Arabic word for creation. So from this point of view, being moral is simply acting in a way that's true to your created nature, your fundamental design. You could even call them your factory settings.
And this right here reveals something fascinating. If being moral means acting according to your nature, then pretty much the entire universe is moral. A star burns, a river flows, a lion hunts. They're all doing exactly what they're supposed to do. But humans, well, we're the exception, aren't we? We seem to be the only beings around with the freedom to act against our nature. We have this unique and kind of scary capacity for immorality.
And this is where it all starts to get a little messy. Because for centuries, we've been handed a very simple equation to solve this human problem, but it just doesn't add up when you look at the real world.
A lot of us were taught this exact idea, right? It's a neat little package. Religion gives you the rules, and if you follow those rules, you're a moral person. So anyone outside of that system, well, they must be immoral. Simple, clean. But reality is never that simple.
Because we've all seen it with our own eyes, haven't we? We've all seen the evidence that just shatters that neat little equation. We've met atheists who are deeply principled, kind, and incredibly moral people. And let's be honest, we've all seen profoundly immoral people who are very, very publicly religious.
So here's the thing. Religion isn't the only game in town when it comes to offering a moral code. You've got big ideologies like Marxism or capitalism. You've got social contracts, national laws, all sorts of systems. But the catch with all of these is that they're often stuck in a specific time or a specific culture. They give you rules, sure, but not necessarily universal truths.
Okay, so if these external systems are kind of flawed, what about science? Can we turn to cold, hard rationality to define our factory settings? Well, our whole understanding of who we are has been on a wild ride, and it turns out that science, for all its amazing power, has a pretty critical blind spot.
I mean, just look at the timeline of how we've seen ourselves. We went from believing we're just one small part of a divine whole, to serving a whole bunch of different gods, then to being servants of just one God, and now to the modern materialist view that we're basically the masters of a cold, random, meaningless universe. Our definition of human nature has been shifting under our feet for thousands of years.
So in this modern age, can science finally just give us the answer sheet? Can it scan our brains or our DNA and print out a definitive user manual for what's right and what's wrong?
And the answer is a hard no. You see, science is an incredible tool for describing things, but it's not prescriptive. It can tell us how to edit a gene or how to build an atomic bomb. It's fantastic at explaining what can be done, but it is completely silent on what should be done. That is a question science by its very nature cannot answer.
So, if organized religion can be flawed and science is silent, where in the world are we supposed to turn for a moral compass? Well, the answer might not be in inventing something new, but in rediscovering something incredibly old.
It turns out, the best guidance for understanding our human factory settings is found when you look for the common threads, the universal patterns that show up over and over again in all our ancient stories, our myths, our religions, things separated by thousands of years and thousands of miles.
And when you start looking for these patterns, this sort of universal moral code starts to appear. You see principles like, don't infringe on the rights of others, honor life, always try to improve yourself, practice empathy, practice cooperation. These ideas don't belong to any one religion or any one culture. They are the shared inheritance of all of us.
And that brings us to the final, and honestly, the most important part of all of this. Because understanding this universal code is one thing, but actually living it, well, that's the great challenge for every single one of us today.
So here's the process, the way to think about it. First, you need the tool. That's your rational, secular mind. It's the key that lets you question old dogma and empty rituals.
But that's just the start. Second, you use that key to unlock the blueprint, those universal truths buried in our collective ancient wisdom. And third, well, this is the hard part. It's the personal work of building your own moral path, brick by brick, based on that timeless blueprint.
At the end of the day, this is really the ultimate conclusion. True morality isn't about blindly following a rule book someone else handed you. It is a profound act of personal creation and personal responsibility. Every single one of us must build our own religion, not a dogma, but a path. Your own path that connects you to what is good. So, that leaves just one final question. And it isn't for me, it's for you. If you are the architect of your own moral life, what is the first brick you're going to lay?